All right, welcome to another After Reviewing the Play podcast. Usually we got more people on here, but myself, Garric, you got Tom over here, Tom at large, and we're going to talk about the winners and losers of the NFL draft. And there's just a lot of teams making a lot of moves. I think there were a lot of trades after there weren't a lot of trades, and we're going to get into every team and who we think did good, who we think didn't. So I'm going to let Tom start off, and we're going to start off with winners first. We're going to have a back and forth. We've got a team that we think just absolutely want to draft. Have Tom start this off.
All right. Well, we'll start with the most hated team in the NFL. The best thing about this draft was watching the reactions from all the fans in the NFC East when the Cowboys got CeeDee Lamb, because that was not supposed to happen.
I was actually going to ask, who is the most hated team? I was like, is it?
Oh, everyone? No, I don't have to.
I was just going on like, where's Tom Brady at? That's the most hated.
The Patriots aren't hated. No, they're not hated because the Giants own Tom Brady. No one hates on him. In no alternate reality, no Rick and Morty scenario was CeeDee Lamb supposed to go to the Cowboys. It was just not supposed to happen. Now I have to guard him. And Amari Cooper. Trayvon Diggs in the second round, the first round talent. Did not want that to happen. Third round, Neville Gallimore. First round talent, Neville Gallimore, Canadian bulldozer. Add him to that defensive line. That's already Tyler Badass.
I was just gonna say, that's your boy right there. You've been touting him for 2 years watching Wisconsin.
Best center. The only way they got him, I think, they got him late in the fourth round because he has injury concerns.
Right.
But he's a badass. He is the best center in the draft if he's healthy. They just lost their all-pro center. So, I wish him well in a way. Not, some kind of way. Do well against the Giants. Fifth round, Bradley Anai, defensive end from Utah. He was in the conversation for second round. I think he's an incredible athlete. So fast. His family, he was just born into the NFL life. His whole family football.
Right. He comes from just a tree of athletes, and on top of that, him and AJ Epinesa, who we might get into a little later. Almost like they're the same tree. They're really good. They're not going to they're not the biggest guys. They're also not the fastest guys. They're not going to bend the edge. They're not going to go crazy, but they're going to defend the attack point, and they're going to make sure that line is sturdy, and you're not going to be able to get past them. They're not getting pancake. These are pancake, these are pancake proof defensive ends, and that's what you need sometimes in NFL.
And if he had to be the man on a team, maybe you're not that scared, but on that Dallas team, surrounded by all that other talent,
right,
he's really gonna excel, and he's gonna create problems because teams aren't gonna scheme for him; they're scheming for everyone else. The worst thing about this Cowboys draft, is I just found out my horror that they signed an undrafted free agent. I didn't even know was in this draft. Tight end, Michigan Wolverines, Cocoon. I didn't know he was in this draft. I thought he was coming out next year. They signed him undrafted free agent.
I actually thought McCoon was he was going to be a top tight end next year.
Next year, he was one of my top 3 next year.
Yeah,
next year was looking to be a very good. I thought next year was going to be a great tight end class. I didn't like this tight end class this year. They got him undrafted free agent. It blows my mind. Blows my.
That's insane. So, as good as I think it is that CeeDee Lamb went to the Cowboys, it still gives me questions because I don't think they don't need him. You already have Amari. You got the other receiver on the outside. Is it worth it? I don't know if it's worth them. It's one of those things with the NFC East where they're just trying to screw each other. Just like with the Eagles drafting Goddard before the Cowboys could get him when Jason Witten retired the first time. They knew the Eagles needed a receiver, and they wanted to make sure the Eagles didn't get that receiver. And I just feel like he's going to be wasted on that Cowboy team.
Yeah, a lot of I talked about the funny thing about all the reactions to the NFC East fans. It's mostly the Eagles fans. because they watched this unfold. They know that
Right.
they were desperate for a wide receiver, and they watched Ruggs and Judy go, and they criticized the management for not moving up, the Eagles management for not moving up. How do you let that happen? Sometimes you have to kind of wide receiver block. You cannot let that happen. You can't let them go to the team.
Right. And that I understand that's what happens, but it seems like this division is the absolute worst, especially the Eagles and the Cowboys. They're trying so hard to screw each other that they end up possibly screwing themselves, because the Eagles didn't need Goddard. They probably needed more receivers, and you got Zach Ertz still playing just fine. And I hope the same thing doesn't happen with Dallas. You have CeeDee Lamb, who's fantastic. He's a number one receiver, but you just signed Amari Cooper to a long contract. You got Michael Gallup. You got him in the draft last year.
But look at Tampa Bay. You have Mike Evans, who is the superstar, especially on that team, just superstar. And then Chris Godwin comes in and outperforms him. So I don't think anyone is crying over there that Chris Godwin outperforms Mike Evans. Mike Evans, his numbers were – I play fantasy football. Mike Evans' numbers were not good until they played the Giants, and he had 4 touchdowns by the first half. So no one in Dallas is going to complain that CeeDee Lamb gets more touchdowns than Amari or vice versa. It's just terrible to have to scheme for that. Plus, you forget about the running game and have a quarterback.
Right. My thing is, how many balls do you have? That was the same thing that the Cleveland Browns had issues with. It's
Absolutely.
You have a young quarterback with Baker, and he has to sit there and figure out who to get the ball to. And then you get your favorites, and then you're going to get one of these all-star receivers that's going to get mad, or Zeke is going to get mad. It's like, why am I not getting the ball? It's like, yes, there's too many things to defend, but there's also one ball. Not everyone can get it, and you have too much top talent that needs the ball. And I guess best case scenario, you have draft bait. Like Michael Gallup, you can probably give him away for a second round pick, maybe even a late first round pick to a team that's contending. So first world problems. But still, it's like you didn't need that pick right then. There's things you needed more. They did get Tyler Badass later in the draft, but I would have secured that inside front before getting a receiver.
I would have too. That was when I mocked them. I mocked them Cushenberry.
Right, who went super late, which I'm shocked with. All right, so my first big winner of the draft is the Arizona Cardinals, just because I think they just kind of hit on everything. Well, first thing you have to say is they traded a second round pick for probably the best receiver in the NFL in DeAndre Hopkins. Right there, they don't have a second round pick, but that second round pick is DeAndre Hopkins, and right there, that's a win. And then you go and you draft Isaiah Simmons, who I felt was probably arguably, in my opinion, the best defender in this draft. There's Chase Young, who everyone thinks is, but I thought Isaiah Simmons is the best defender in this draft. He will erase almost any running back, tight end, even a lot of receivers. He'll just erase them. Not only that, but he'll go into the backfield, make tackles. He's going to be absolutely fantastic. And then you get Josh Jones, who was a first-round grade in the third round. You got another Utah defensive tackle in Leaky Fatu. They killed it. They killed it early on in this draft. And then, as you brought up a little bit earlier as we were talking, they got Eno Benjamin, who is going to he's going to be a solid backup running back. He's going to be a handcuff running back for all these fantasy teams. He's going to be a running back that is going to give breathers to Kenyon Drake. He's going to
be the next Philip Lindsay.
Maybe, absolutely.
Because they're not going to expect, when he comes in the game, they're really not going to expect them to hand off. They will, and he's going to burn them.
Right. So, and this is a team that absolutely, you're sitting there talking about the Cowboys scaring you. The Cardinals scare me, being, a 49er fan. This Cardinal team is built to be, they might not be playoff ready this year, but this is going to be their division for in the next 2-3 years. This is going to be their division.
You know very well it's a tough division. So
oh yeah,
they needed a strong draft.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So like you want to do another round of winners? So we're gonna do another round of winners.
Yeah.
Your go.
Oh boy, so many choices. I have to give credit to the Saints just because they took what do they have? 4 draft picks.
That's not a lot. It's not a lot of draft picks.
Cesar Ruiz in the first round is incredibly solid. They just released their guard, which I thought was odd because there's nothing wrong with him. Turns out undrafted. They got Calvin Throckmorton undrafted.
Whoa.
Undrafted. So he can step into that guard. Or he can play all 5 positions, like I'm talking about for the past over a year. He can play all 5 positions. So that solves that. They took Zach Bond in the 3rd round.
Yep.
It's a steal, and that's probably only because of his diluted test sample. Adam Troutman, tight end at that small school. That's fine. I don't have a problem with that. On tape, he looks fantastic. Sorry, it's a receiving tight end. And they're lacking at receiving. 7th round, they took Tommy Stevens, quarterback from Mississippi State, which did make sense that this was before they signed Jameis Winston, obviously. So maybe that's why they did it. If they knew they were going to do that, they probably would have taken that 7th one back. They had a couple other undrafted free agents that really brought this together for them. Jawan Johnson, who I didn't know was going to be in this draft, wide receiver from Oregon. He could have been a maybe 3rd best wide receiver next year.
Yeah, he was hurt. He was hurt for basically 2 years.
Yeah,
and he came on strong toward the end of the year.
I remember it was the Oregon versus USC, and he just lit it up. I'm like, oh my god, big dude's like 6'4". That's just a steal for that team that now has Emmanuel Sanders, Michael Thomas. So that's he's. So there's one more undrafted. They got Joe Bacci, I think, from Michigan State, who's should have probably gone in the 4th, 5th round. They got him undrafted. So considering that, they only had like 4 draft picks, they managed to walk away from the draft with starters.
Right, and that's what happened. Like especially with the undrafted players, it basically becomes free agency. If I were in a draft, I would almost rather go undrafted because then you at least get to pick your team. It's like, oh, okay, the Saints team is good. I'm from the South. I want to play for this team if they'll have me. And then you end up getting the best. You can end up getting the best players that you want that from the remaining pile, and that's absolutely fantastic. Like Jawan Johnson. Holy crap, this kid he's good, and he actually might get some playing time. Of course, it's always unfortunate when you're undrafted because you have to fight for your roster spot, and it's not as easy as being a running back or a defensive back or something like that when there's a lot of options. Like when you're a receiver, like you're there's 1 or 2 options and that's it. But
and he might not get opportunity. He might not get first team reps. He's probably not going to get Drew Brees throwing the ball. He'll probably get Tommy Stevens throwing the ball. So.
Exactly. And with the Tommy Stevens pick, it makes sense because he's going to be that he's going to be that utility quarterback that is going to be in the same role as oh my gosh, what's
Taysom Hill?
Yeah, Taysom. He's going to be a Taysom Hill role, and he'll probably be the scout team Taysom Hill because they gave Taysom Hill a nice big contract. They can't have him going out on the scout team getting hurt anymore. So you got scout team Taysom Hill, and if Taysom Hill does get hurt, now you got a quarterback who can go out there and do the same things that he's doing. So why not? Might as well.
And the Saints were good to begin with. So it's like if they didn't have a draft, they'd still be Super Bowl contenders.
Exactly.
So, big win.
All right. So my next big winner are the Indianapolis Colts. And the Colts quietly had themselves a fantastic draft. And you're thinking like, oh, they traded their first round pick for DeForest Buckner, who a good deal. I'm never a fan of trading for a first round player or like a first round talent player, but that's already at the end of his contract, and then you have to go give him a monster contract on top of that. Because why? Like the whole point of drafting players is that you get them for relatively cheap. And, the Colts had to give DeForest Buckner a huge contract and a number 13 pick. So that in itself was not the best move, but still a good move because he's going to solidify that defense that was on the come up. But check out who they drafted after this. They got Michael Pittman. They got Jonathan Taylor. They got Julian Blackmon. All these players are excellent players on their team and possible first rounders.
That's what I was just going to say. Everyone you just mentioned has a first round grade. And
right.
If any of them went in the first round, you'd be like, yeah.
Yeah, but then this is what actually stood out to me the most, and it's actually a big need, and the way they played this was actually perfect. They got Jacob Eason in the fourth round.
As far as my grading, I'm not the greatest quarterback grader in the world, but I have to put him ahead of Herbert. And I did, and I think in the final mocks of the year.
Right.
He's better than Justin Herbert. He's more accurate. He's got a cannon. He's very mobile. Goes to his progressions, like the whole 9 yards. I have him ahead of Justin Herbert. So get him in the fourth round to a team that needs a quarterback. I mean, have Phillip Rivers for 1 year.
Right. And I even think the fact that they got him with Phillip Rivers, and he's going to be in the same quarterback room as Phillip Rivers. He's going to be in the same quarterback as a former starting quarterback in Jacoby Brissett. He has a good quarterback room. He gets to sit for a whole year, and he's going to figure out the tricks of the trade. No. Whereas now you have Justin Herbert, who went to the Chargers, and he has, like
a beat up offensive line. I don't like his situation with the Chargers. But
right.
as a fan of football, the best thing for the Colts and Jacob Eason are each other. Like, this makes sense.
It's a win-win for everybody. And poor Justin Herbert. I mean, I actually love Tyrod Taylor. I think he's a good quarterback. But there's a reason why he is a career backup journeyman quarterback as opposed to Phillip Rivers, who's been there. Like, and you even look at the talent, or I should say lack of talent, with Phillip Rivers in that arm. He has to make up for it somehow, some way. And he makes up with it for being smart. He anticipates throws, and that's his whole game, is like knowing where the receivers are going to be and how to get the ball to him. And I'm
sorry, Justin Herbert doesn't have that. That's why I had to knock him down.
Yeah, like Justin Herbert is like, oh, there's a guy, let me throw it to him.
It's his first read. If he's not open, he's still going to throw it. He's going to throw it very hard, or he's going to throw it over his head or something.
Yeah, so I think the Colts, they got a bunch of other players. I mean, is worth mentioning, not worth mentioning. Another player that I really like is Isaiah Rodgers from Massachusetts, underrated. But I think he's going to be one of those players who's going to earn himself a starting job. Just they got a lot of really good players at a very low price. And I think a lot of people are down on Michael Pittman, but
oh, they shouldn't be. I mean, he didn't have a quarterback at USC. I mean,
right.
His quarterbacks kept getting hurt. The team wasn't very good. Michael Pittman is.
Yeah, like Michael Pittman. When you're the son of an NFL player and you're still really you're really productive in college and on a team that has they went through a lot of coaches, they went through a lot of different offenses during a time when he was at USC. And he seriously looks like who the receiver from the Chargers. He reminds me of Keenan Allen, like almost a doppelganger for Keenan Allen. Like just the way he plays, like the height, the way he runs routes, like his toughness. I really do think that he's going to thrive, and he's that possession receiver, and he's going to give T.Y. Hilton and Paris Campbell. He's going to give them a possession receiver, so now they can just go off the top and create space for him. It's a win-win.
Well, that's a good comparison considering Phillip Rivers throwing the ball. So
exactly, like Phillip Rivers is almost like he never left home, except he's glad that he left LA. All right, let's talk about these losers. Who lost in this NFL draft?
Oh boy. So many choices.
I know who you really want to talk about. I know who you want to talk about first.
I have to talk about the Eagles.
Wow, I didn't think you were going to talk about the Eagles first.
No, I have. They must be spoken about. Jalen Reagor. It's probably going to bite me in the ass, Giants fan, but I don't think he's a game changer. He's not a first round. I'll take him third round. Like he's doesn't have great hands. He's very fast. There's a lot of fast receivers. You don't use a first round pick on someone who's fast.
Right.
And their draft grade, in my opinion, has to do with the strategy or the lack thereof. What is the draft strategy? You know for a fact that no one is bigger on Jalen Hurts than me. I had him as the number 2 overall pick in my mock drafts of the past year, like up until very recently, just because I'm like, okay, I must be missing something. I love Jalen. Why did the Eagles take him? Like, you just gave. I mean, they. You know that, or I think everyone knows Wentz is injury prone. But Jalen Hurts in the second round, he's not the same type of quarterback. Like they're just so incompatible. What makes this makes me question their strategy is they took Khalil Tate undrafted. Now Hurts and Tate together, and I love Khalil Tate. I've been talking about Khalil Tate for 2 years. Those two, those two, I think you can build around. So I mean, are the Eagles? What are they building around? Are they building around Hurts and Tate, or Wentz with Hurts coming in that Taysom Hill role, or like the Eagles did with Michael Vick years ago? Are they? I don't think they are.
Yeah.
So what is the strategy?
Right, and I do think, especially when you're drafting, and you're getting undrafted free agents like Khalil Tate. Khalil Tate is basically going to be Jalen Hurts' practice team because they gave too much commodity for Jalen Hurts, and they want to put him in a Taysom Hill type role, where they're going to have him be like that second quarterback. You know, the Eagles like to do the trick plays, and they like to be cute and all that stuff, but you need receivers. It was proven that you needed receivers badly. You have an aging defense. The defense is getting much older. Like the last thing you needed was another quarterback, especially a quarterback with a second, like that you taking a second round with a 4th round grade. So I agree with you. I would have been okay if the 49ers drafted him in the 1st round because he's absolutely dynamic and different than what Jimmy G has. But Wentz and Jalen Hurts they're almost one and the same. And I still would rather have Wentz, and you just gave Wentz that big contract, whether he gets hurt or not. You know, like you would rather, you know, a quality veteran backup than a quarterback that you have to have sit for 2 or 3 years.
Why not take because I want to call the Raiders losers, not just because the players they draft, they don't fit their team, but they fit other teams. The Raiders took Lynn Bowden Jr., who I friggin' love, who's starting quarterback for Kentucky. But he's gonna play wide receiver. Great, that's wonderful. So why wouldn't the Eagles take him? So you have a dynamic wide receiver / running back / trick play quarterback, or God forbid Wentz gets hurt, you have a quarterback.
Right.
You have all those things. You know, you have Malcolm Perry out of Navy. I can't remember where he went. I think he went to Miami. Who's the same player? Who's a starting quarterback who loves to play wide receiver, and you can hand the ball off. Why would you take Jalen Hurts, who's not going to play wide receiver? He's not going to be
no.
He's a quarterback that probably no other team. I mean, if you listen to the analysts other than me, had like 5th round grades on him. You took him in the 2nd round.
Right, and like I think I think Jalen Hurts is an awesome player, and he's going like this thing. He's going to be in that quarterback room. They're grooming him to be a starting quarterback, whether it's to take over for Wentz because they can't trust him because he's hurt, or if they want to groom him to trade him. They're doing the whole New England Patriots thing where it's like, oh, we're going to trade you as a quarterback, so we're just going to have you in, groom you, show you off, put a couple packages in for you so we can make you look good, so we can hopefully trade you later. But that's the thing. For a second, like, you're not going to get anything higher than the 2nd round pick for Jalen Hurts unless Like, look at all these quarterbacks that are coming out next year. Look at how long it's taken for all these quarterbacks to retire now. So what kind of logic is that? Like, there's not enough. There are too many quarterbacks for all the teams that are there. That's why Cam Newton hasn't been signed, and Jameis Winston signed a $1 million contract to go be a backup in New Orleans because there's now too many quarterbacks.
Yeah, I was shocked that Winston took a 1-year deal. A shock because of his age. Why, he's going to settle for a 1-year deal? Yeah, that just backs up your point. What you said is the market isn't there. Like, quarterbacks are playing until they're 40 years old.
Right. It definitely makes no sense to me. So
the window, like the NFC East, has been wide open. No one wants to win it for like the past 5 years. By the time the Eagles, if they're going to like rebuild around a new quarterback, by that time, NFC East is, in theory, could be a lot tougher. So why not go all in right now? Just like the Packers are kind of doing something similar, where you have your quarterback and you're not drafting to win now for that quarterback. You're not giving that quarterback what he needs to win. And the Eagles, who else did they take? They stole Sean Bradley from Temple in the 6th round. I really wanted him. But other than that,
at least that was a good pick.
Oh, it was an excellent pick. But it's really with the Eagles, to me, it's more of I don't understand their strategy. Like, what are they trying to accomplish?
No.
Picks. Because again, Jalen Reagor, I don't think he's going to be your number one wide receiver. He's not going to be that much of an impact. I don't think he is.
Right. And I don't want to steal, and I feel like there are a few teams that we definitely have to cover in the losers bracket. You brought up the Raiders for a second. I don't know if you want the Raiders or the other team, but I'm going to offshoot, and I'm going to say that the Chicago Bears had a bad draft, and it's not their fault because they went and they got in the win now. Part of the reason why they didn't have too many draft picks as it was is because they drafted or they traded for Khalil Mack. But I don't think they had a good draft to begin with. So they went and they got Jimmy Graham from the Packers. But then they spent their first draft pick that came way late. Like their first draft pick was in the second round. They spent on Cole Kmet, who is possibly the best tight end in a very, very weak tight end draft. He was possibly the best tight end, possibly. But you just picked up Jimmy Graham. Like, you obviously had deficiencies everywhere else. The offensive line, not good. You lost players at cornerback. They did feel that with Jalen Johnson. He's a pretty good receiver, but I also think that they really need receivers. And in a very heavy receiver draft, they got no receivers. It's like this team of all teams needs receivers. They need running backs. They lost their starting running back to Miami. I mean, granted, he wasn't great. What's his name? Former Eagle, and now he's with the Dolphins. I know, right?
Jordan Howard.
Yeah, Jordan Howard. So they had Jordan Howard. They still have the rookie they drafted last year. They're okay. They did decent. They still have Tariq Cohen, who
Tariq Cohen is fantastic.
He's fantastic, but they're never gonna give him the ball. He's always gonna be that Darren Sproles. So. Yeah. The whole point of the matter is that they really didn't they had a lot of needs and didn't address any of them, and they just addressed the stuff that they just okay, this is the best player available in our books, and in my opinion,
that's impossible.
Right.
That's just impossible when you look at it. They were in a similar situation to the Saints, where they didn't have a lot of draft picks, so they needed to make the most of them, and it's. It was Cole Kmet, Jalen Johnson. Jalen Johnson's a good pick in the second round.
He was a good pick, but you have bigger needs in cornerback. You have bigger needs in secondary. You have bigger needs in tight end, especially. There are a lot of interior linemen, and when you're drafting, especially when you don't have that many draft picks, you need to draft for need. And in my opinion, the whole best players available scenario works in the first round. You just this guy failed this far, I'm going to take him. If he's a first round grade, it's I'm getting this guy. In my opinion, Cole Kmet and Jalen Johnson, they're not one of those people. They're he's there. I can't believe he's here. I'm drafting him.
They had 5 more picks, and they're all from small schools like Georgia Southern,
Right.
Tennessee State, and I've never heard of these players.
Yeah, and like I don't want to knock them. Like these players, like obviously they have NFL scouts that they pay to pick out these players, and another one of the teams that I'm going to talk about if they don't get talked about beforehand is going to be on this list. But these players could turn out and they could be amazing. But at the same time, you just grabbed a whole bunch of players early when you could have you could have gotten more needs. Like they definitely needed another receiver. The only really good receiver they have is Allen Robinson, and maybe they didn't get receivers or running backs because they know their quarterback sucks and they know they have to rebuild. I don't know.
He really their quarterback situation really is bad. They have Anthony Miller, who they got out of Memphis, who I think could be the next Antonio Brown.
Yeah, Anthony Miller is good. Like he played hurt last year, and if he can stay healthy, then he'll be good. But then again, he needs a quarterback that will make sure he stays healthy.
Yeah, Jesus Christ. I'm sorry my language, but it's this is a situation where it's like, why didn't they take Jacob Eason? Like, why they needed to make moves. Their quarterback situation is not settled, and it's hard to compete when your quarterback situation is so up in the air.
And
Nick Foles wasn't the answer in Jacksonville, so why is he going to be the answer in Chicago?
Right, and like it's one of those things where, and I don't want to harp because this is mainly about the draft, but I don't want to like all these teams are like, oh, I'm gonna get a quarterback that I'm comfortable with, and it's like, oh, I'm very comfortable with Nick Foles, and I know he knows my offense. I know he's going to be able to do the things I ask him to do, and it's like, is he though?
No, he makes terrible decisions. The Giants beat them when they shouldn't have because Trubisky. When quarterbacks make bad decisions, they make bad decisions, and Trubisky makes bad decisions.
Right.
Foles had a couple of good games in his career. You know, so did Jeff Hostetler.
Right.
They're quarterbacks who can win you a game, but you don't give them $100 million contracts.
Yeah, and there are quarterbacks who get hot, and the one quarterback that I can always think of that always gets hot at exactly the right time is Ryan Fitzmagic. And he's one of those guys that you get hot as a player, and all of a sudden you're untouchable. Nick Foles got hot during that Super Bowl run. A lot of it is because teams weren't expecting him to go out and do good. Another thing is he was playing like he had nothing to lose, and now he has $72 million to lose.
Yeah.
So like he's going to be playing with a sock up his butt, and when he is the man, he has never done good, and he's not progressing. He's getting older, but he's not getting wiser per se. He's still Nick Foles. He's still a bridge quarterback. So you think a bridge quarterback is going to be better than someone that you can at least train and get into the room and at least see if you've got something there?
And in that division, you also have kind of a window, like a kind of a chink in the armor in that division, with the Packers kind of being in a little bit of disarray. Lions still trying to rebuild, trying to build for the past 50 years.
Yeah.
And the Vikings are obviously very good. But that's kind of a different. Yeah, Vikings are kind of scary in that division. So
the Vikings and I think the Vikings benefited the most because they actually had a really good draft, and I was going to have in my really good draft class. They got rid of a lot of players that cost them a lot of money and were cost them a lot of issues. And then they went and reloaded and got a whole bunch of young players that want to be there. Yeah. And they let all these players fall to them. The Eagles had a chance to draft Justin Jefferson, and they didn't. They drafted Rieger, and then it was like, oh, Jefferson's here. He's a slot receiver. We could probably also put him on the outside too. Let's draft him. They got corners. They got safeties. They got everything that they needed. They're going to be young players that still need to develop. They still need to get better, but they actually filled positions of need, and they got under their budget, and now they have an opportunity to win because their division didn't do anything to stop them from getting better.
Agreed.
Yeah.
You want to give me another loser?
All right. So my loser that I have, and like, of course, this makes me happy in the time they lose, is the Seattle Seahawks. And I don't want to say they necessarily lost. The reason why they lost is because they drafted a bunch of players that they could have gotten later. And
that's, there's two schools of thought. Is if that's your player, you take them. But you're a GM. You have an obligation to your team to manage the draft and get the most bang for your buck. And if you're gonna reach for a player, you are obligated to try and trade back to get more draft capital, to get something. If you're gonna take someone who's not gonna be drafted until later point.
Right. And that's it. I don't know if John Snyder is it's one of those things, like, you can tell the good GMs, the ones that are connected, the ones that have a lot of clout, like Belichick, he's always trading back. He's trading back, trying to figure out exactly where he's going to draft his players. And he might draft someone obscure, he might draft someone weird, but you never really doubt. It's like, oh, like, Bill Belichick got a player, in the second round. He's from a really small school, but you never doubt that pick, especially when he's drafting them in the second and the third rounds and stuff like that.
Yeah, Belichick made a lot of moves in this draft, a lot of moves mid rounds, and I don't question you. You just so hit the nail on the head where I don't even want to second guess him because he must know what he's doing. I mean, right. I'm not in love with any of his draft picks really, but I just know that if he did it, yeah, that's probably a reason. I'll just stay out of it. I'll mind my business. Like
right.
with the frog, I'm like, that's none of my business.
But that's the thing, like, you never, time in and time out with the Seattle Seahawks, you don't ever see them drafting, like, moving back in the draft and drafting players that they, like, moving back into the second round, acquiring picks and acquiring other players from other teams for cheaper. You don't see that happening. I don't know relationships. Like, for instance, with the 49ers, they did a great job of, I'm going to trade back. And get this play. They did the trade back with the Buccaneers for Tristan Wirfs, and in a pick later they got Javon Kinlaw. And it's like, okay, like, we're going to take one of these players to the other. It's like, oh, you want this pick, you're going to trade for him, and they got more picks for that. They got a valuable pick that they used later on in the draft to pick another player that they wanted. Like Jordan Brooks, he could be absolutely phenomenal. But
yeah, of course I like Jordan Brooks.
Right.
Not in the first round.
Yeah, like, you don't think he would have been sitting there at the time you picked in the second round. You don't think he would have been sitting there at 48. Even if you didn't think he'd be sitting there at 48, you can't trade back. When teams aren't able to trade back and stuff like that, there's obviously some, like, if you're at 27, you don't think someone's going to want one of those, like, valuable players, like one of those tackles that didn't come off the board yet.
Yeah. The Giants got Xavier McKinney in the second round.
Right. Like, there are tons of players, like all those, like, receivers that win the second round. You don't think one of those teams wanted Jonathan Taylor, like, late in the first round or something like that? Or it's just
Clyde Edwards-Helaire, like, Seattle could have used him. Like,
right. There are so many, like, Jordan, and they are having issues at linebacker.
I thought they would have gone secondary. I mean, they do have.
Right, and that's another thing too. Like, they definitely needed secondary help, and they didn't get any of that for the most part. So
no, they did not. They took an edge rusher out of Tennessee, who I really am not familiar with. Third round, they did okay with Damian Lewis, a guard from LSU, which is where he should go, third round. They took a tight end out of Stanford in the fourth round, who was okay, and they took DJ Dallas, a third string running back from Miami. Like, that was probably something they didn't need to do in the fourth round.
Right. And that's the thing, like, they do have big needs at linebacker, and I think that's the one thing that scared them, is that there's not a lot of really good linebacker help in this draft, and they really wanted a linebacker, and they saw that a couple of them got taken, especially the kid from Oklahoma and the kid from LSU, Patrick Queen, that they got taken before Seattle was able to get there. But if that's such a big need, then at that point, trade up. Like, go ahead and get up there and get your Kenneth Murray and get what you need to replace your linebacking core. Because, like, and that's the thing, like, don't sit there and overdraft for a player that's not worth that grade that high. It's a third round grade they pick, like, in the first round, and it's just a no.
They could have turned that into draft capital.
Yeah. And I notice this time and time again that they're constantly drafting players that aren't in like they're not in the place where they should be drafting them. Last year, of course, was an anomaly with oh my gosh, Metcalf. Like he literally fell into their lap. And like, that was the one steal. But everywhere else, like they should have drafted Metcalf in the first round because I don't even know the guy they drafted in the first round last year. He is a rotational defensive lineman. That's it. And
if the NFL could redo that draft, DK Metcalf comes off the board top 10.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Someone would have moved up for him.
Absolutely, and it's one like Russell Wilson is actually the perfect quarterback for DJ Metcalf because DJ Metcalf is the backyard bully wide receiver that's going to just literally catch everything. And Russell Wilson's a backyard quarterback who doesn't matter. You don't run routes with Russell Wilson. You just run. You just run around and just try to find somewhere open and that's it.
That brings up the point was they didn't address wide receiver, and they kind of need depth at wide receiver. They kind of need some speed options. Right. And they took DJ Dallas out of Miami. Jeff Thomas, wide receiver from Miami, I think he had some off the field issues or some nonsense because I was super high on him. He is fast. He went undrafted to the damn Patriots, and he went there too late. But they could have had Jeff Thomas if to stretch the field. Like, I don't know. I don't understand their draft strategy. They didn't take any wide receivers. I don't even think.
Well, they took Freddie Swain from he's decent. He's definitely like that's the thing. Like, look, Florida is one of those teams in Florida's college football. They had a lot of really good players, but they didn't have really the offensive system to showcase how good these players are. Another team, I think we should just wrap this up and talk about all the other teams who were like, they did good, and
well, the Packers, I put them in the same category as the Eagles, where it's like, what is that draft strategy? Because they took Jordan Love in the first round, who's not ready to play in the NFL. I didn't think he was worth the first round draft pick to really any team because he's not ready to play. You have Aaron Rodgers, who has still won games by himself, practically by himself. And he still has two more years on his contract. It's okay to draft a quarterback to develop. This is where you draft the Jacob Eason in the fourth round and see what you have there. But you need to play or need to draft to win now. A.J. Dillon in the second round is a fantastic pick. We talked about that. Not really a need because Aaron Jones got the job done. It wasn't they weren't lacking. The rest of their draft, they took a tight end from Cincinnati in the third round.
Yeah. Now this is the thing with this tight end. They've been trying to get this guy, and they reached for him definitely because he's not even a tight end. He's a fullback, but he's going to play like a tight end H back. He's basically going to be the next Kyle Juszczyk, and they're going to use him in that manner. I actually think that's a good pick.
He's a third round grade on him.
No, no quote unquote fullback should be drafted anywhere above round 5. It's
like long snapper. That's usually not they'll list them as centers. Like, wait a minute, that's not a center. He's the long snapper.
It's kind of like, and that's the thing. Like, but if he brings value, like that's the thing. Like, if you were to take Kyle Juszczyk in a draft right now, like teams would probably draft him in the second, third round. If he's that valuable.
If your scheme utilizes a fullback, then
absolutely. So if this guy turns out to be, like even half of that, it's like,
dude, I was just watching the Niners. I told you I was watching the Niners Chiefs Super Bowl again. Juszczyk could have been the MVP of that game.
He could have been.
He was killing them. So fullbacks. If you could scheme for a fullback, that's a dangerous weapon.
Right, and if you have a fullback that allows you to scheme around him and be good, that's fine. Like I don't mind the Green Bay Packers draft, and yes, they didn't draft a wide receiver, and you felt like they needed one all year long. But if you look at their receivers, first of all, the receiver that they had last year, the big tall boy from Notre Dame,
Equanimeous, St.
Brown. Yes, St. Brown. He was hurt all last year. They
were all hurt. They were all limping on and off the field.
Exactly. You had so many players that were hurt. Like quietly, they picked up Devin Funchess. You still have Valdez Scantling. You still have Jake Kumaro. You still have Alan Lazard. He's one of those players that came up. Like, you have these players that actually could be decent. So I understand them not getting a wide receiver in this draft, even though you definitely needed one. But you don't draft a quarterback. You don't.
No, it's definitely not. But second round, even. Oh, geez. Let's say the first round is gone. You got Jordan Love. Get him Chase Claypool. Get him Denzel Mims. Get him like one of the. They probably, Packers could have traded up and stole Jerry Jeudy or stolen someone. They kind of owe that to Aaron Rodgers. I mean,
right.
If you watch the Packers, I've seen it too many times. As old as and beat up as Aaron Rodgers is, he has willed his team to victories at the games they shouldn't have won.
Right.
As a team, they weren't even really that good last year. You saw what the Niners did to them. Like, their defense cannot stop the run to save their lives.
Right. Like, you need one of these big filler guys.
Why didn't you take Neville Gallimore, who the Cowboys got in the third round? Like, there were so many run stoppers. Jordan Elliott out of Mizzou, he went super late, much later than he should have.
Oh, absolutely.
It should have been first round, the best run stopper. Second round, best run stopper.
Rakeem Davis from Alabama.
Yeah.
Like they could talk about a big run stopper. Like just get someone who could plug up the middle. And it's like they just totally screwed the pooch there. You talked about the Raiders.
Raekwon Davis went to the Dolphins, so I kind of wanted to have them as a very good draft because he went.
Oh, the Dolphins had a very solid draft. I wouldn't call it great. But that's another thing. They drafted the players that they felt they needed at those positions. It wasn't anything that was like eyebrow raising. It was like, wow, you really reached, but it also wasn't.
No, absolutely.
Like, wow,
absolutely.
damn good pick.
And they had a lot of picks, and every single one of those picks throughout the draft, it's like, yeah, that's very solid.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the Dolphins for a moment.
Yes. Oh.
So Tua, which was the right decision. Just cross your fingers that he's healthy, and that's Tua. Can't pronounce his last name, but that's Tua. That's the quarterback of the future. They have 3 first-round picks.
They got Austin Jackson.
They got Noah Igbenogany.
I'm really big on him. I mean, like
everyone is.
I think he's going to be one of those players that's going to be eye-poppingly good. Like he reminds me of Darrell Green. For all you youngsters out there, Darrell Green was the fastest player for like 20 years. There was Deion Sanders, and it was Darrell Green.
This is a team that's rebuilding. I was worried that they were going to trade all 3 of these first-round picks to move up and draft Joe Burrow. I was worried they were going to do something, trade those picks, do something stupid to reach for a player. They didn't. They took all their picks. Robert Hunt, guard, is one of those Raging Cajuns, smaller school, but highly graded tackle. Raekwon Davis, Solomon Kinley in the 4th round, guard from Georgia, fantastic. Jason Strawbridge, defensive end, North Carolina. They got Curtis Weaver from Boise, who led.
I was waiting for you to get to him.
He led college in sacks. 7th round, they're the ones who got Malcolm Perry, who we talked about, who is a starting quarterback for Navy, who is a phenomenal wide receiver, and he plans on playing wide receiver. Yeah, he also plays running back. He returns kicks. He's Tariq Cohen. I compared him to Tariq Cohen.
I'm about to say Malcolm Perry was like the most dynamic runner of the football.
Oh God!
In college football, minus like a couple of those all-star running backs like Hilaire and Jonathan Taylor. Malcolm Perry put Navy on the map because like Navy's had a bunch of good running backs lately, or quarterbacks, like they're running backs. But he would, out of all of them, was probably the best, and he's one of those guys that you can put in like that trick like offense and do some things.
Or God forbid your quarterback gets hurt. Yeah, he can go and he can play quarterback, and he's going to create havoc. Or your wide receiver's hurt. Throw him in there. Your running back is hurt. Throw him in there. Got to return a kick. Throw him in there. In the 7th round to have that kind of a weapon is amazing.
Right.
They got Benito Jones undrafted, a defensive lineman out of Ole Miss. Benito Jones is damn good. He's a run stopper. They got him undrafted. So I think the Dolphins had a fantastic draft.
They did. The Dolphins had I'm still torn on Tua. I don't think he's one of those guys, and I've heard a lot of analysts say is like if you're not as fast or as athletic as you think you are, you need to save yourself. You need to make sure that you're putting yourself in situations where you're not going to get hurt again, because you have injury history, and those injuries are going to make you a little bit less mobile, a little bit less able to get away from the pressure that you're going to be facing in the NFL. So, and you're already like you're not one of those big guys. You don't have the big arm. You're going to need to use your wits in order to outwit the players that you do. Like, he has a decent arm. Like, he definitely can read plays very well. He's very good at a very young age for looking at all of the receivers that he has to look for. But in the NFL, they're going to be a lot less open, and he's going to be chased by a lot faster pass rushers. So he needs to be careful. And I just don't know if he's going to be able to get away from all that stuff.
That's something you I think they teach all mobile quarterbacks. I mean, I think Lamar Jackson had to practically sign a contract with the Ravens saying that he would slide. He doesn't like to slide. I mean, Lamar is on another level, but that's something that I think all quarterbacks have to learn when they go to the NFL. One of the most important things I had to learn playing Madden is to throw the ball away. Like, I don't like taking hits in Madden.
Yeah,
I feel bad. No, that's something he'll learn. He's not going to start. I think Fitzpatrick will start.
I mean, like, that's the thing is, Fitzpatrick is definitely going to start there. But Fitzpatrick's not one of those quarterbacks who's going to, for instance, Alex Smith was good enough for Patrick Mahomes to sit all year long. Fitzpatrick is going to have a game or 5 where, like, put in Tua. Especially when, like, you had the whole campaign last year, tank for Tua, and they actually get the quarterback that they want. And he is going to be the most popular player on that team, unless Fitzpatrick actually lights it up, and they end up going 8-1 with Ryan Fitzpatrick. If they lose, if they get to their 6th game and they're 2-4 or they're 2-3, the crowd is going to be screaming for Tua. It's like, put him in, see what you got, because all these quarterbacks have a short leash. So,
well, that's obviously that's Fitzpatrick's life story, is light it up, have a bad game, and everyone calls for his head.
Right.
That's his role in the NFL.
But, like, if you have no one behind him that can take his job, it's like you've got no choice. But the problem is you got a quarterback that you took at number 5, and now you have to play him. And like the only saving grace for Tua is that he was hurt last year, like, really, really badly. So you can always say you want to make sure he's 100%.
Yeah. But
at some point, when it comes mid-season, and if he's healthy and he's now on the injury report, then they're going to expect him to play. And that's the thing. Like, I just don't trust that he'll be ready and up for it at the time. I don't know if he ever will be. I don't know if if he's athletic enough in this NFL to be the quarterback that he needs to be. He's not Jacob Eason, where he has a cannon for arm and is like 6'9". He's not. So, I just I don't know about him. Another team I want to bring up as a winner, even though a lot of people didn't think so. The Buffalo Bills. The Buffalo Bills had a sneaky, fantastic draft, and the one player that I actually want to point out that they got that I think is going to be absolutely fantastic is Jacob Fromm.
Okay. Since we're talking about quarterbacks, oh boy,
yeah,
I have them as a solid kind of head scratcher, kind of meh, kind of strategy. What is the strategy? Fromm plays into that, where you have a young quarterback, Josh Allen, who in theory is going to be your long-term solution at quarterback. So your backup should be maybe a veteran or somebody. If you're going to take a quarterback, 5th round I think is too high.
Wow, too high for Jake Fromm?
Yeah. I mean, for the Bills, I don't like. For someone who's, in theory, you don't want him to play ever. Like, if you're taking a quarterback, it should. When you have a Josh Allen as your starter, who's young, who's dynamic, he's not really doing anything wrong except overthrowing guys. But you got Stephon Diggs now. I just, as far as I have a problem with the strategy, the draft strategy. Taking a Jake Fromm, who might have a chance to play on another team. It's like when the Giants were drafting quarterbacks the past 20 years. It's like, okay, I'm going to hold the clipboard. Like, you're not going to play. So you don't draft quarterbacks at all, really, but certainly not that high. they didn't have a first round pick, right? The Bills.
No, this is one of the wins for me is that they actually got Diggs for that first round
Diggs
pick.
deal. Okay, I mean that makes sense because they desperately needed a Stephon Diggs at wide receiver. They needed someone like that. A.J. Epinesa, second round. That's a fantastic pick.
Right.
Yeah, because I mean, you can't go wrong with it. Put pressure on the quarterback.
Right. Like
and this is a situation where the value is too good to pass up. Like if he's still there when you're drafting, it's like even if you don't need a defensive end, you have to take him.
Exactly, and that's thing. Like AJ Epinesa is one of those things. I know you said you get position when you're going to the second round. You get the best player at that position for what fills your needs. But the thing is that they got AJ Epinesa, who not only fills a huge need, but he fell a long way in this draft, and he is exactly what you need. He's going to be one of those guys that's he's not going to get pancaked. He's going to be tough. He's going to be physical at the line. They needed to fill a position from the player that just retired from the Bills. So you filled a huge need. Zach Moss, they filled a huge need because guess what? Frank Gore is not there anymore. And you have Singletary there. Singletary's not one of those guys that's going to carry the load. So you get Zach Moss, he's going to be able to fill a lot of those carries. And then back to Jacob Fromm. Like Jacob Fromm to me is one of those RG3 Kirk Cousins kind of deals. Like he is good enough to maybe take over for him if something happens to Josh Allen, and he gets hurt, and you gotta put Jake Fromm in, and Jake Fromm is going to be one of those guys. He's going to be a game manager. In the way that the Bills play football, they need game managers, and what Josh Allen is doing to be a game manager, he's running the football. He's putting his body on the line because you can't trust him to throw a pass on the spot at all times.
I mean, I love the fact that he can move the chains. You need to move the chains. Yeah, he'll do it with his legs.
Yeah, like he'll definitely like make plays with his legs and stuff like that. But then, like I think Jacob Fromm got a raw deal. Like his last year at Georgia, yes, they had a lot of good running backs. All the good receivers left. The Ridley was gone. They had almost no skill players outside of running back for Fromm to throw to. Their offensive line wasn't as good as it has been. He plays in the SEC, which is already a tough division. Like I think he kind of got a raw deal. And then when he went to the draft, he didn't perform, or the combine, I should say, he didn't perform as they wanted him to. But I still think that he's a damn good player, and he reminds me a lot of Brady. And as much as like how I feel about Tom Brady, but Tom Brady did exactly what he needed to do, and that is to manage the game, make sure the Patriots didn't lose, and he didn't have any expectations. And a round 5 Jacob Fromm has no expectations, and he's a quarterback that no matter what how many quarterbacks did Georgia have that they gave up on because Jacob Fromm was there and he was better than all of them?
Interesting.
But I mean, Ethan was there. Who else? One of the top quarterbacks from Justin Fields was there.
Oh yeah.
So you have all these quarterbacks who the Georgia Bulldogs decided, you know what, Jacob Fromm, we'd rather have Jacob Fromm than these other 2 quarterbacks that are definitely going to get drafted higher than him. So what does that say about Jacob Fromm?
Well, someone chose Dwayne Haskins over Joe Burrow. So. Any given Sunday.
That's true. And but at least with the Joe Burrow situation, Burrow was hurt and he was trying to come back from injury, and he just didn't make it. And then he was like, I need to get out of here. Justin Fields, he wanted to see the field, no pun intended, as soon as possible, and Fromm was there, and like that's another thing. But Fromm has been sturdy this whole time. He's played through some injuries, but he's always playing. I think Jacob Fromm could possibly take Josh Allen's job at some point. I feel like this is a Drew Bledsoe, Tom Brady kind of transition.
Well, I mean, Bledsoe did get hurt. I was just going to say, unless Josh Allen gets hurt, and he does play that style where he puts his body on the line,
right,
often, and he has dealt with injury already. I would just think they would have gone with a reliable veteran to back him up because you're going to need someone to step in here and there.
Yeah.
They got Isaiah Hodgins from Oregon State. It's a good wide receiver. I mean, that was a late round, I think the 6th round.
Yeah.
I still think they could use a speedster, someone like, Henry Ruggs. Or the reason I liked Mecole Hardman going to Kansas City is because he's fast. So the quarterbacks with those cannon arms who love to throw deep and may not be the most accurate, you need someone who's going to, or Hollywood Brown, who can catch the ball that's overthrown.
I mean, that's like they got Diggs now. So they got Diggs, and they still have Smoke. So they have receivers that can turn the top off the ball. They have receivers that can catch up to those passes that are overthrown. But the problem with Josh Allen is he literally is Wild Thing for the Cleveland Indians in Major League. Just get him some glasses or something. Like, put some tape over it, like something, because he can throw the ball like 105 miles per hour, but he can't hit the backside of a barn. And I'm sorry, like, you need to be able to complete passes in the NFL. He can like when he's on fire, like, there is no one better than him, no one. But it's too much hit or miss. He's too inaccurate. Like, he has a big arm. He's super athletic. Like, he's proven that he's tough, but he's not accurate. He is the furthest you can get away from Drew Brees.
Well, Drew Brees is pretty good.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like Drew Brees, he doesn't have the big arm, but he's gonna make sure. I actually should compare him to Phillip Rivers. I don't understand how I still to this day do not understand.
No, I wouldn't compare him to Rivers either.
I think I'm going to have a counter how many times I've mentioned Phillip Rivers in all of our podcasts.
And how it just doesn't make sense. Play at a high level.
All right. Do you have anything else? You got any more stats or winners or losers you want to talk about?
I mean, I might as well run down my Giants super quick. I'm very happy with the Giants. And the draft strategy was kind of odd, where it was pretty much just offensive line and the secondary, like nothing else. Nothing else matters. And guess what? That is all that matters to the Giants. I think the Giants rebuilt their offensive line in this one draft. Andrew Thomas. I have seen Andrew Thomas not only manhandle, shut down Kayvon Chason, who was one of the most touted edge rushers in this draft. Last year it was Josh Allen. I've seen him just toss him away. It's a fantastic pick. This is what we need, because now we have to face Chase Young twice a year.
Yeah.
Best guard in the draft. My neighbors wondered what happened when Shane Lemieux got drafted, because I screamed at the top of my lungs. I was so happy. Shane Lemieux is so good. I think he's the best guard of this draft. I think we stole him. Where did we get him? 5th round.
Yeah.
So I was so happy about that. Matt Peart, right tackle from UConn, small school. You watch the tape, super long arms, super strong. I'm so happy with him. He grew up a Giants fan, grew up in the Bronx. Xavier McKinney in the 2nd round is a steal because he's a first-round talent. Darnay Holmes, cornerback, UCLA, fast AF. He is so fast. Oh boy! And after that, after the 5th round, it was just linebackers.
Because that's what your defense is. It's just all linebackers. So
according to Dave Gettleman, that's our strategy for getting after the quarterback. Linebackers. What breaks my friggin' heart is because he was stupid enough to say this publicly. If we hadn't traded our 3rd round pick to the Jets for Leonard Williams, a player that we didn't have under contract, so we would have used that pick for linebacker from Zach Bond.
Oh yes, that you do love you some Zach Bond,
and that's if you want a linebacker that can get after the quarterback, it's Zach Bond, and he was there in the 3rd round. We just didn't have a pick because you traded it so that you could have a player not under contract.
Right.
In a year where the season was over, we were not competing. Why did you do that? It just didn't make any sense.
Like, Leonard Williams is a good player, but
I love him, but we didn't have him under contract, and it was hell to get him under contract, and now he's suing because I think we designated him as a defensive lineman instead of a defensive end or some nonsense. So that he wants more money, basically.
Right? Yeah, like he signed. You get him for a franchise tag.
Yeah.
And now that's just more fighting and everything like that.
Based on the position, he accepted that, but now he wants different position designation, which gets more money. Why did we give up a third-round pick for that when it could have been Zach Bond? When your strategy is to draft linebackers that can get after the quarterback, that's Zach Bond. That's going to sting for a while.
I think Leonard Williams is actually a better fit there than he was with the Jets. And the problem with Leonard Williams is, like, why is he fighting? Like, he is a 3-4 defensive end, not a 4-3 defensive end. He's not an edge rusher. He's not a Joey Bosa or anything like that. He is a end rusher, which is basically a glorified defensive tackle. Nothing wrong with that. Like, I think defensive tackles are excellent. They just don't get paid as much. Just like guards don't get paid as much as tackles, even though the best offensive lineman in the NFL plays for the Colts, and he's not a tackle, he's a guard. So, it's just one of those things. It's like sometimes you don't get to choose where you play, and you just bring the talent.
No, I blame the Giants. I blame Dave Gettleman. That was just bad management. That's going to sting for a while, but I am very happy with.
And another team that we have to, I feel like we have to bring up as having a bad draft is the Texans. I mean, it's all fallout from the DeAndre Hopkins trade, but even their draft wasn't technically good. They had a couple gems in there with as much. They had some players they got. It's like, oh, okay, this guy's pretty good. Oh, okay, this guy's pretty good. But they had no picks, and the players that they did pick, with the exception of they got John Reed, who I think is a really good cornerback. They got pretty late. They went to Penn State. And they got Ross Blacklock, who I think is fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, there were plenty of people who had him the first round grade.
Right.
They didn't have enough draft picks, and you don't realize that until it's draft day, and you see other teams drafting, and you're just sitting there and like helpless, watching everyone else open their Christmas presents, and you don't have
right. Exactly. It's like all of a sudden, like you come to the draft, you're the poor kid, and it's like, I got no draft picks. Like look at the Vikings, they got like this draft pick, that draft pick. Like even you look at the Arizona Cardinals, it's like, wow, like they gave us picks, and it felt like they got more Christmas. They got Isaiah Simmons, and I got a brick in my pillow.
That was my third round as a Giants fan. So I'm looking at all these I don't say juicy, but all these great players that I can't have, and I have to wait.
Yeah, and like the same thing with the Rams. Even though that's another team I wanted to mention as winning the draft is the Rams. The Rams had a fantastic draft for the lack of picks that they had. Cam Akers, write this down for all you fantasy honks out there. Cam Akers and Van Johnson are going to be studs. If they don't get hurt, they're going to be fantasy studs.
Oh, they got Terrell Lewis in the third round.
Yeah, they did.
From Alabama. Now he's to me a first round talent.
Like he physically looks like a first round talent. He didn't play like a first round talent, but he physically looks like one. And if you combine that with a lot of the talent that they already have, he could actually stand out. They also got Bryce Hopkins.
Bryson Hopkins.
Who, in my opinion, was the best tight end in this week tight end draft. And they got him at 104, like pick 104, which I'm doing the calculations. That's the fourth round, isn't it?
They got him at pick 136.
Yeah.
So, because they had 2 third round picks.
You're right. Yeah, it was 136. That's definitely fourth round. So, and they got Terrell Burgess, the safety, out of Utah. Another they killed it. Like just on paper, they killed in this draft, and they're going to be one of those. I feel like they regressed a lot because they lost a lot of those players that made their team really good. Like Sue is gone.
Rams they have to do some rebuilding.
Yeah,
that Jared Goff contract is just bad.
Yeah, like they signed a bunch of bad contracts really early. Like I don't know why they signed Jared Goff before they had to. They could have just given him his 5th-year option.
Especially because he's not that good. And he's not going to win you a game. He's just not. He's a game manager.
Yes, he is. And he deserves Ryan Tannehill money. He doesn't deserve Russell Wilson money, which is basically what he's making.
He doesn't deserve Ryan Tannehill money either.
He doesn't. I mean, I think Ryan Tannehill is better than him, but at least he's younger. So age minus talent, you get that number. He's definitely if he got Ryan Tannehill money, I wouldn't be upset. but the fact that he's up there in like the top 5 contracts of quarterbacks is ridiculous.
The Rams leveraged their future thinking that they own the division and they thought they were going to own this division for years to come. Then all of a sudden, the Niners quietly put together the defensive line that it's out of this world. In a running game that took over, dominated the league. Held teams for ransom basically with that run game. Couldn't stop them. And the Seahawks wouldn't go away.
Right.
And now look at Arizona.
Exactly. It's like the Rams are going to be at the bottom of, like, they're scared they're going to be at the bottom of the basement. They had no picks.
They are.
But that's like, I think with these picks, they bought themselves. It's almost like they quietly rebuilt it and got a lot of talent. I say rebuilt. They got a lot of like under the radar talent from schools where they actually played some good teams. Like Cam Akers has been a staple for Florida State, Florida State team.
And that team isn't very good at FSU. Like they haven't been good for a while, and he's been very good.
And like the fact that they haven't been good, they haven't had a good quarterback since Jameis Winston left, and Cam Akers was still able to put up the numbers and the stats that he did. Don't be surprised if he's not the next running back for Minnesota.
Dalvin Cook.
Yeah, he's Dalvin Cook. He's going to be the same player. He's better than Todd Gurley. He's already better than any running back in that backfield. You still have to be scared of the Rams passing game. They still have a really good run scheme. They got rid of Brandon Cooks and they replaced him with Van Johnson, who basically is the same player as your boy Cooper Kupp. So it's I don't know how good they'll be defensively because Aaron Donald can only do so much. You also have you have Ramsey, but he's only there for 1 year, and you don't know if you're going to get the good Jalen Ramsey or the bad Jalen Ramsey.
Yeah, I don't think they will. I think he's one of those players that's going to get disenfranchised. That's why he demanded to get out of Jacksonville because they're good. And guess what? The Rams are not going to be they're not going to win a lot of games this year. They open up the season against Dallas at home, which is basically going to be like playing in front of 50,000 Dallas fans. If we're allowed
Absolutely.
To have fans.
It's going to be. I wouldn't be surprised if it's 80% Dallas fans because still no one cares in LA.
That's LA, and that's going to, in a play like him, it's going to get inside his head. I remember when the Steelers came here to play, I think the Chargers, like players were so mad that there were so many Steelers fans. It looked like a Steelers game. That's just LA, so I don't think this is the place for a play like that. I think that's going to get inside his head. Right,
and Jared Goff is the weakest link for a team that I think is actually very good, and I see it's one of those things because Wentz and Goff went in the same draft, and I kind of put them in the same like kind of categories as
they're linked.
They're definitely linked
from that draft, so.
But like they're definitely linked. And I still don't think that neither of them are good either. They're not great. They're not going to be like your Hall of Fame, like mountaintop quarterbacks that are going to like take you to the promised land. I think Wentz is a little bit better than Goff just because he's at least athletic. Goff, he's a statue back there.
No, I mean I give Wentz credit. If he was healthy, I think he could be one of those quarterbacks that'll win you at least two Super Bowls.
Right, but
he's just not healthy.
Yeah, so if the Rams got someone like Jalen Hurts, then I think they'd be absolutely scary. Especially you saw firsthand what Jalen Hurts can do on a wide open offense at Oklahoma, and it's like the Rams offense is like very similar, and I think that they could do very good with the talent they have. The problem is the Eagles don't have that talent. The Eagles need to acquire talent they didn't have. The Rams need a quarterback that can throw the ball to the talent.
I agree. But since you brought up when you said next Dalvin Cook, I had to bring up Keyshawn Vaughn, who I have him as the best. So I'm like, where did Keyshawn Vaughn go? He went to Tampa Bay, and he went third round. No one was talking about him. I thought he was going to slip. So look for Keyshawn Vaughn this year in fantasy. Tampa had a very good draft. I think there's a lot of pressure on them because they got Brady. Tristan Wirfs, Antoine Winfield at safety, then Keyshawn Vaughn. Tyler Johnson from Minnesota in the 5th round.
Tyler Johnson is going to be a very underrated
I thought
wide receiver.
I don't know. I thought he was going to go second, third round. I mean, he's like 6'2". He's like Michael Pittman-esque. I mean, I'd rather have Michael Pittman. I mean, they don't. You can't say that they need another weapon, wide receiver there. But that's a nice, as far as depth.
Yeah,
that was a good decision.
The thing with the thing with the Buccaneers is they did exactly what they were supposed to do. They got Tristan Wirfs. I wouldn't have traded up one pick to get him, but they were scared that the 49ers were going to pick him anyway. Keyshawn Vaughn, that's a great pick.
I'm telling you right now.
That's definitely a great pick. Antoine Winfield. Like if a player, I definitely believe in players that are player or are sons of former NFL players because they know what they're doing. Look at all the long kids. Look at even Patrick Mahomes. He's a son of a professional player. Well, not professional football, but like he gets it. He knows the ins and outs of a locker room.
No, it's discipline. It's obviously
right.
Physical discipline, like taking care of your body.
Exactly. Like DK Metcalf, he's a son of a player. His uncle
the
is
Mannings,
Metcalf.
the Manning. They're already talking about the next Manning,
right?
High school.
Like what is he? He's in ninth grade. I hope he gets a play.
Yeah, he's young. He's very young.
So I think Antoine Winfield is going to be fantastic, and you got a lot of these players. I think Khalil Davis is going to be someone that you can stuff the inside. He's going to they're slowly transitioning from an inside to outside defensive line. So you just need those run stuffers, and this guy is a run stuffer. And like Tampa Bay, as much as I hate to say, and this is the unfortunate part for Jameis Winston, is they loaded this team up, and Brady's going to reap the benefits of it.
Yeah. Sometimes as a quarterback, you have to realize that when you're going into your contract negotiations. Perfect example of Dak Prescott, where it's, and I think that every sign that the Cowboys are pointing out to Dak is that you need us, we don't need you.
Right.
So Dak has to keep that in mind when he negotiates. But he wants to be on that team that's ready to win. He doesn't want Cam Newton to step in there and win a Super Bowl with that after Dak put in all that work.
Funny that you say that because in my season of Madden, Cam Newton got traded to the Cowboys and they were like 15-1.
Oh wow! And I think he's going to go to the Jets at this point. Now that he said he'll take a backup role, and the Jets desperately need a backup because Darnold, first of all, isn't that good, and he's a dirty person getting mono. Probably got COVID-19.
That's not like I wouldn't go to the Jets because they're still not going to be good. I still think you have to go through Buffalo. Miami's a rugged team, and the Patriots still have the best defense in the NFL. If you're Cam Newton, why would you want to put yourself through that?
It's not a matter of choice. It's a matter of what options are there.
I mean, like it's kind of like who's the best the best backup role that I think is still available. I would go to the Steelers.
Oh, absolutely.
They got no backup that they can trust. If Ben can't play, might as well go there. And like the coaching staff is going to love you. The coaching staff like always make sure the receivers are where they need to be. They got Chase Claypool out of nowhere. You got Juju, who like I think him and Cam will get along fantastically. You got a good defense that will save you some games if you.
No, that defense won games last year with zero offense. Like
exactly,
nothing from the offense. That defense won those games. Like
so, and it's like if you're going to be a backup, at least go somewhere where you could be at least a bridge quarterback. Is like I'll go here, just like with Jameis. He's like I'm gonna sit here. I'm going to learn how to be a quarterback here, and if possible, I'm definitely better than Taysom Hill. So if Drew Brees decides to retire, I'm taking over for this team. And it's like, Cam could go do the same thing. Like Ben Roethlisberger he's 38 going on 80. He's like he's got 1 or 2 years left. I don't know how good his elbow is. They're sitting there saying that it's better than it's ever been, but I mean they say the same thing about Cam and his shoulder 2-3 years ago. So you never know, and if you have an opportunity, you can like Cam will look damn good in that black and yellow, and he'll fit in with that crowd nicely. Like the Steelers would love Cam Newton.
He reminds me of a young Ben Roethlisberger.
Yeah. Except Ben Roethlisberger never got his shoulder hurt to the point where he don't no more.
No. Oh, well, right now he doesn't remind me of him, but like they're very similar. They're very similar quarterbacks in their prime.
Yeah.
Cam is still a little more in his prime than Ben, so he'll get another year or two.
Right. Like if Cam would be one of those players, like if you could just take an off year, he should just retire right now. Take an off year, recover your body, get it strong again. Just
Be careful what you wish for, because that might happen. The whole league might get a year off. Who knows?
Oh, I don't want that.
Maybe we should end. We should
wrap this thing up. All right, so thank you for another podcast. We had fun, just me and Tom here, talking football. We went way off track, but that's what this is about. We're just we're fans talking football. Follow us at the links below. After reviewing the play, we got Taylor who's not here right now, but he's always updating the Instagram and the Facebook. We got the website. Check us out, and have a good one. Later.